March 15, 2023. Camera operator Mike Rodriguez was filming what should have been a routine prayer scene for The Chosen, when his equipment captured something that defied the laws of physics. For exactly 17 seconds, Jonathan Roumie's feet weren't touching the ground, yet he remained perfectly still in prayer position, suspended 2 inches above the set floor. Rodriguez immediately knew he had filmed something extraordinary, but within hours, studio executives ordered all footage deleted and made him sign a non-disclosure agreement. What Rodriguez didn't know was that this wasn't the first time Jonathan had levitated during filming, and it wouldn't be the last. If you're watching this and haven't subscribed yet, please hit that subscribe button now. Because what you're about to discover about the deleted footage from The Chosen will change everything you thought you knew about Jonathan Roumie and the supernatural events surrounding this groundbreaking series. The morning of March 15th began like any other filming day on The Chosen's Texas set, with crew members arriving at dawn to prepare for what director Dallas Jenkins had scheduled as an intimate prayer scene depicting Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane. The scene required no special effects, no wire work, no complex camera movements, just Jonathan Roumie alone in costume, kneeling in prayer beneath artificial olive trees that production designer Dan Bishop had meticulously crafted to recreate the biblical setting. Mike Rodriguez, a 23-year veteran camera operator who had worked on everything from major Hollywood blockbusters to small independent films, was positioned with his Steadicam for what he expected would be straightforward coverage of Jonathan's powerful but technically simple performance. What Rodriguez didn't anticipate was becoming the primary witness to what production insiders would later classify as the most extraordinary supernatural event ever recorded during a television production. As Jonathan settled into his prayer position, Rodriguez began rolling, capturing the actor's transition from Jonathan Roumie the performer into what witnesses consistently describe as a profound spiritual state that seemed to transcend the boundaries between acting and authentic religious experience. For the first few minutes, everything proceeded normally, with Jonathan delivering the emotional depth and spiritual authenticity that had made his portrayal of Jesus internationally acclaimed among both religious and secular audiences. But at exactly 11:27 a.m., according to the digital timecode that Rodriguez's equipment automatically embedded in every frame, something impossible began to happen. Jonathan's breathing had deepened into what appeared to be a meditative state, his eyes closed in prayer, when Rodriguez noticed through his viewfinder that something about the actor's positioning seemed unusual. At first, he thought it might be an optical illusion created by the lighting setup, or perhaps a trick of perspective through the camera lens, but as he continued filming, Rodriguez realized that Jonathan's knees were no longer in contact with the prayer cushion that had been placed on the set floor. The realization hit Rodriguez with such shock that he nearly stopped filming, but his professional instincts and 23 years of experience kept him focused on maintaining steady camera work while his mind struggled to process what he was witnessing. Jonathan Roumie was suspended in midair, maintaining perfect prayer posture while floating approximately 2 inches above the set floor, his body completely motionless except for the gentle rise and fall of his breathing and the subtle movement of his lips as he continued praying in what witnesses later identified as Aramaic phrases that weren't part of the scripted scene. The levitation lasted for exactly 17 seconds, a duration that Rodriguez would later verify by reviewing the footage frame by frame before it was confiscated. During those 17 seconds, Jonathan remained completely unaware of his supernatural state, continuing his prayer with the same peaceful concentration he had maintained throughout the scene. Other crew members who were positioned at various points around the set began noticing the phenomenon, with script supervisor Amanda Walsh being the first to audibly gasp, though she quickly covered her mouth to avoid disrupting what everyone sensed was a profoundly sacred moment. Sound technician Carlos Martinez, who was monitoring audio levels through professional headphones, later reported that during the exact time frame of the levitation, his equipment registered what he described as impossible acoustic phenomena. Jonathan's voice seemed to carry harmonic overtones that created an almost otherworldly resonance, as if multiple voices were speaking in perfect unison, despite only one person being present. The audio analysis that Martinez conducted immediately after filming showed frequency patterns that shouldn't have been possible with standard human vocal capabilities, suggesting that something far beyond ordinary speech was occurring during those 17 seconds. When Jonathan gently settled back to the ground, The transition was so smooth and natural that he appeared completely unaware that anything unusual had occurred. He opened his eyes, looked directly at Rodriguez's camera with the serene expression that had characterized his most powerful Jesus scenes, and softly said, "That felt different today," before standing and walking toward the craft services area for his scheduled break. Rodriguez was left staring at his camera's LCD screen, replaying what he had just captured, unable to believe the evidence of his own equipment. The camera operator immediately sought out Dallas Jenkins, who had been monitoring the scene from a video village setup approximately 50 yards away. Rodriguez approached the director with hands that he later admitted were shaking, explaining that something unprecedented had been captured on film and that Jenkins needed to review the footage immediately. When Jenkins viewed the material on Rodriguez's camera, his reaction was what several witnesses described as stunned silence, followed by quiet prayers of gratitude, as the director realized he had documentation of what appeared to be genuine supernatural intervention during their portrayal of Jesus Christ. But the excitement and reverence that initially characterized the crew's response to the footage would soon be overshadowed by the swift and decisive action taken by studio executives when word of the incident reached the production company's corporate offices in Los Angeles. Within 3 hours of the footage being captured, senior executives from both the production company and the streaming platform that had invested heavily in The Chosen's success arrived on the Texas set via private jet, accompanied by legal representatives and what appeared to be crisis management specialists. The executives' primary concern wasn't the spiritual significance of what had been captured, but rather the potential legal, financial, and public relations implications of releasing footage that could be interpreted as either miraculous evidence or sophisticated fraud. According to sources who were present during the emergency meetings that followed, the executives expressed fears that releasing such footage could expose the production company to lawsuits from religious groups who might claim the footage was blasphemous, skeptics who might accuse the production of fraud, and insurance companies who might question whether supernatural events were covered under standard production policies. Mike Rodriguez was summoned to a private meeting with the executives and their legal team, where he was presented with a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement that went far beyond standard confidentiality contracts used in the entertainment industry. The NDA specifically prohibited Rodriguez from discussing, describing, or referencing the levitation footage in any context, whether professional or personal, for a period of 25 years. Violation of the agreement would result in financial penalties that Rodriguez later described as potentially bankrupting for someone in my profession. The deletion process itself was carried out with military-like precision, with technical specialists systematically removing all traces of the footage from every camera, server, backup drive, and cloud storage system that had been used during the production. Rodriguez was required to surrender not only his primary camera equipment, but also his personal backup devices and even his mobile phone, which had briefly been used to record behind-the-scenes content earlier that day. The specialists used advanced data recovery prevention techniques to ensure that no trace of the supernatural footage could ever be retrieved. However, what the executives and their technical team didn't know was that Rodriguez had developed a habit, born from decades of experience with equipment failures and technical disasters, of creating redundant backups using a personal storage system that wasn't connected to the production company's network. Earlier that morning, following his standard protocol, Rodriguez had transferred preliminary footage to an encrypted external drive that he kept in his personal vehicle as insurance against potential technical problems. This backup, created hours before the levitation occurred, contained not only the supernatural event, but also several minutes of lead-up footage that provided crucial context for what followed. The impact of witnessing and then losing documentation of Jonathan's levitation had a profound effect on everyone who had been present during the filming. Cast members who had worked with Jonathan for multiple seasons reported that his subsequent performances carried an even deeper spiritual authenticity that was immediately noticeable to anyone who had followed the series. Elizabeth Tabish, who portrays Mary Magdalene, described feeling a presence that transcended acting when working with Jonathan in scenes filmed after the levitation incident. Other actors began requesting private conversations with Jonathan, seeking spiritual guidance that went far beyond typical cast member relationships. The crew's response was equally dramatic, with several non-religious technical workers reporting profound spiritual experiences in Jonathan's presence during subsequent filming sessions. Lighting technician Robert Chen, who had previously identified as agnostic, began attending Bible study sessions after working on post-levitation scenes with Jonathan. Sound engineer Maria Santos described feeling overwhelming peace during Jonathan's dialogue scenes, leading her to seek baptism in the Catholic Church for the first time since childhood. Perhaps most significantly, the deleted footage incident marked the beginning of what production insiders quietly refer to as the protocol, a comprehensive set of procedures developed specifically to handle supernatural events that began occurring with increasing frequency on the chosen set. The protocol includes specialized documentation requirements, discreet witness management, and communication strategies designed to protect both the production and any individuals involved in unexplained phenomena. According to sources familiar with the protocol's implementation, similar levitation events have been recorded at least 7 additional times since March 2023, each incident carefully documented and immediately classified under the same non-disclosure requirements that governed Rodriguez's original footage. Dallas Jenkins himself underwent a profound transformation following the levitation incident, though he has remained publicly discreet about the specific details of what he witnessed. Colleagues report that the director began incorporating extended prayer and meditation periods into his pre-production routines, and that he started consulting with theological advisors before filming particularly significant Jesus scenes. Jenkins also implemented what he calls spiritual preparation protocols for cast and crew, encouraging everyone involved in religious scenes to engage in prayer, fasting, or other spiritual practices that align with their personal faith traditions. The supernatural events haven't been limited to levitation. Multiple witnesses report that Jonathan has demonstrated what they describe as impossible knowledge about historical details related to first-century Palestine, including specific information about Jewish religious practices, Aramaic linguistic nuances, and cultural customs that weren't part of his preparation for the role. Religious consultants working with the series have expressed amazement at Jonathan's insights into theological concepts that would typically require years of seminary education to master. Dr. Sarah Williams, a professor of biblical archaeology who serves as a consultant for historical accuracy, documented numerous instances where Jonathan suggested script modifications based on knowledge that she described as extraordinarily sophisticated and historically precise. These suggestions consistently improved the authenticity of the series, while addressing theological questions that had been debated among the show's religious advisors. Williams asked Jonathan about the source of his insights. He consistently responded that the information simply felt right without being able to identify where his knowledge originated. The medical implications of Jonathan's levitation have also been quietly investigated by professionals with security clearances high enough to access the classified footage. Rebecca Torres, who had previously treated Jonathan after his mysterious set accident in 2021, was granted limited access to review Rodriguez's backup footage as part of an ongoing study into unexplained physiological phenomena. Her analysis confirmed that the levitation appeared genuine, with no evidence of wire work, digital manipulation, or any other technical assistance that could explain Jonathan's suspension in midair. Dr. Torres's report, which has been classified at the highest levels of confidentiality, noted that Jonathan's vital signs during levitation showed patterns consistent with deep meditative states achieved by advanced spiritual practitioners, but with additional neurological activity that suggested consciousness expansion beyond normal human parameters. The medical terminology was carefully chosen to avoid religious language while acknowledging that the observed phenomena couldn't be explained through conventional understanding of human physiology. The international religious community's response to carefully leaked information about the levitation incidents has been overwhelmingly supportive, though Vatican officials have maintained their characteristic discretion regarding supernatural claims. Cardinal Martinez, who had previously met with Jonathan following his papal audience, issued a carefully worded statement acknowledging that God works through dedicated servants in ways that may surprise us, without specifically confirming or denying knowledge of the levitation footage. Protestant denominational leaders have been more direct in their support, with several prominent pastors publicly stating that they wouldn't be surprised if God chose to manifest miraculous signs through someone portraying Jesus Christ with the authenticity and reverence that Jonathan brings to the role. Rabbi David Stern, who continues to serve as a theological consultant for The Chosen, noted that levitation has historical precedent in Jewish mystical traditions and shouldn't be dismissed simply because it challenges contemporary skepticism about supernatural phenomena. Today, nearly a year after Mike Rodriguez captured 17 seconds of footage that defied physics and challenged everyone's understanding of the intersection between faith and reality, the impact of that deleted footage continues to influence every aspect of The Chosen's production. Jonathan's performances have reached new levels of spiritual depth that religious leaders from various traditions have praised as unprecedented in contemporary religious entertainment. The series itself has gained recognition from academic institutions and theological seminaries that previously maintained skeptical attitudes toward faith-based media. The backup footage that Rodriguez preserved remains secured in an encrypted storage system, accessible only to a handful of individuals who have signed the most comprehensive non-disclosure agreements in entertainment history. Whether that footage will ever be released to the public remains one of the most closely guarded secrets in contemporary television production, but its existence continues to influence everyone who knows about it, serving as tangible evidence that the boundaries between performance and spiritual reality may be far more permeable than anyone previously imagined.